2. Our topic would be intercultural misunderstanding, and it is my group consists of me, Dinesh, and then Skim, who's presenting after me, and after him will be Kelvin, Keryn, and lastly will be Samuel. So the movie that we have chosen for the case study would be Outsourced. It's a movie that was released in 2006. Has anyone here watched this movie or heard of it maybe? No? Well, I would suggest you guys to watch it because it has quite a lot of comedy which makes it interesting and you won't feel bored then. Oh, okay. Well, only you then. And it actually is quite pretty educative for our course as well. So I'm going to show you a brief trailer of the movie and then I'll talk you through the synopsis of what actually happened in the movie.
Bob decided to restructure order fulfillment offshore the whole department.
We need you in India. No, I'm not going to India to train my replacement. All you need to do is visit the call center and make sure the new guy's up to speed. Bro, what is that?
Oh, that's just a cow. Must have wandered in. Basically, people need to learn about America. Hold your nose, flatten the vowel, like Chicago. Chicago. I'm in Chicago. Yeah, right.
Bro, this place is a disaster. I'm stuck in India the rest of my life. My name is Todd. Everyone says Toad.
Hey, Mr. Toad. Mr. Toad. Mr. Toad, house.
You realize you're on vacation over there?
Yeah, I gotta come here to vacation.
Listen, Doc, just a word of advice. I remember feeling like you did. I was resisting envy. Once I gave in, I did much better.
It's a pleasure talking to you.
Some things I don't understand about American life. You hate your boss, and you don't like it. Why not choose something else?
Why don't you say anything?
What did you say? I don't know how this country works. What now? You must come.
Hi. I don't know how to explain it. In my world, it just makes sense to work your ass off just so you can have that 50-inch plasma. Someone's got to train the new guy. Some of us do something like they're over 1 billion of us, you know.
Okay, so now a brief synopsis of the movie. The movie starts off when the lead character, Mr. Todd, has been forced to uproot his life and travel to India because his department is getting outsourced. I say he's forced to travel to India because his boss basically gives him no option and says that if he does not move to India, his stock options would be taken away from him and he would not get anything from the retrenchment package. So once he has reached India, Todd, being an American, finds everything unfamiliar and it basically feels very out of place. And he then also meets Puro, as you can see on the top corner, who is the person he's supposed to train to replace him to take over the call center in India. And then Puro takes him to the office, which is a shabby building, and meets his team of call center employees. Todd gets very frustrated with the level of competency shown by his call center team and feels that they never get their minutes per incident to below 6. What this means is, if he does not achieve the required MPI, he does not get to go home. So just when he feels that everything is going downhill and he's probably stuck here forever, as you can see, as you guys saw in the trailer just now, he goes on an adventure to eat at McDonald's, but eventually ends up at some rip-off fast food place, and that doesn't even have cheeseburger. But then the highlight is he meets a fellow American who advises him to say stop resisting India and give in to it to make his life a lot easier. He then experiences an Indian festival called Holi, which makes him feel a lot more settled, while in the background the MPI of the call center improves slowly. He also singles out an employee, Asha, as you can see, the one wearing the headset, as someone who is capable of leading the entire team and is ahead of the curve compared to everyone else. He offers her the role of Puro's assistant when he leaves, as well as he subsequently tries to improve workplace experience for his team by giving them incentives and asking them what will make them feel more comfortable at work. He predictably falls for Asha, as you can see, it's also a romantic movie in some sense, and accepts that they can't be together even though he can't quite understand it. What I mean by this is Asha traditionally has been engaged to someone else at a very young age, and Todd finds this, well, unbelievable because it's unheard of where he's from. So the next slide would be when they finally get the MPI down to below 6, they learn that all their jobs will be now getting outsourced to China because it's cheaper there. So when Dave, his boss is known as Dave, tells them that to fire them, Todd convinces Dave, to say that you should hire Puro instead of firing him to lead his successor in China. So this will help Puro because he is supposed to get married to someone he loves, and the marriage depends on him having a stable career. So he then goes back home enlightened man from his experience in India. Now, what is intercultural communication? Basically, it's communication between two people from very different backgrounds and beliefs. As you can see from the slide, culture, as we have learned in the lecture, is a learned set of shared interpretation about certain things which affect behaviors of a large group of people. And then you have different dimensions of cultural diversity, which can be custom, values, behaviors, and communication style, as well as humor. Cultural miscommunication occurs due to formality, social customs, style of dress, tolerance for conflict, and gender roles. Lastly, these are the contents that my teammates will be going through with you all for the rest of the presentation. I will conclude my presentation now. And for those of you all who are interested to watch the movie, I hope I have not spoiled it for you by going through the entire movie with you all. Thank you. Now Skim will take over.
Thank you, Dinesh. So now I'm going to talk about question 1 and 2. In question 1, we will talk about the differences in corporate culture of the two countries. So in US, we actually have a low context culture, whereas in India, we have a high context culture. What do I mean by that? At low context culture, right, we are actually enforcing a strict talking style whereby between your boss and your employee, there's a very small gap. So you are actually comfortable with actually scolding your boss, which is in the movie. They actually call him a slime ball. So then, whereas in a high context culture, it's actually more of an indirect style whereby in Asia it is most often used. So when Puru was actually asked by Todd to go on a long trip because a shipment was sent to the wrong place, he actually tried to manipulate his words by saying no problem, but he has to take a 2-hour nap and interview a new agent, and then after that he has to make sure that his mom goes to hospital with a lot of excuses to say that he doesn't want to go. And the next part, another difference in corporate culture is actually the high power distance and the low power distance. So in US, there's a low power distance whereby it's a very close relationship with the boss where it's very comfortable speaking to each other. Then in high power distance, it's actually in India where, as well as Asia, there's you find that your boss is actually very distant from you, and you can actually feel the inequality of power and influence. So over here, we actually call our bosses Mr. and address as Sir wherever you see a boss. Okay. Next. So question 2, what are the differences in family culture between the two countries? So the differences are uncertainty tolerance and uncertainty avoidance. So what is uncertainty tolerance? So it's basically, by the name itself, is the tolerance to unforeseen circumstances. So for example, in US, right, they actually are very strong in it, whereby they can actually take risks. So he can actually be promoting Asha to assistant manager, but whereas in India, right, they actually feel that the girls or anybody, their family itself, if they come from a very poor family, they cannot actually think that their daughter or son can go very far. So that's for uncertainty avoidance in India. So So now I'll pass on to Kelvin.
Okay, thank you, Skim. So now I'll be discussing about what were the cultural aspect of the Indian employees that Todd actually overlooked. So first aspect is about the high task orientation versus the social orientation. So what's the difference between high task orientation and social orientation? So for task oriented cultures, right, they are more competent, as in they tend to have their member more competent through training and also up-to-date methods, and also they are highly concerned with individual success. And whereas social cultural content, right, for social orientation cultures, there is more focus on collective concerns such as cooperative problem solving and maintaining a friendly atmosphere. So from the show itself, right, the continued pressure of trying to achieve a lower MPI rating shows that the task orientation of both Todd and Dave's culture, while Puru, in the other hand, he possessed a high social orientation, whereby when Todd was having stomachache problem after eating the gola, he actually abandoned his job responsibility and went on to find the food that can help to ease his stomachache. And next is individualism versus collectivism. Individualistic cultures offers the members more greater in freedom, which they believe that by having this freedom, right, the members tend to make it possible for each person to achieve their personal success, and also members tends to put their own interests and also those that immediately related to them over social concern, as contrast to collectivism, whereby they form a tight social frameworks in which members of a group are more close to each other, primary loyalty to each other and also their group members. Then from this, for these two cases, right, we can see from the slide inside, it's also part of the scene whereby Todd, actually he lives in an apartment in Seattle, he lives on his own, he is very ambitious and also consumption oriented. As he explained to Puro, in my work, you just tend to work your ass off and go into a credit card just so that you can have a 50-inch plasma TV. And other than that, Todd also never visit his family very often, despite having to stay away from them for 2 hours of journey only. And this actually stuns Puro, where he don't understand, and he also don't understand why Todd works for a company that he dislikes and also the boss that he doesn't like. Then third aspect that I'm gonna go through is social harmony is the ignorance of Todd against the Indian culture and the Hindu religion by discussing of one of their company's novelty product, which is a burger brand. What is the burger brand? The burger brand actually is a branding product that brands marks on steaks or meat. So in response to one of the company workers' question on the purpose of the product, right, Todd continues to repulse his audience as he discusses about the cattle branding in US. Then last but not least is ethnocentric manner of thoughts against his employee. So what is ethnocentrism? It's a major diversion amongst the members of ethnic races and religions. And what they believe is they are better than any other people solely based on the heritage. And this actually caused a problem of both racism and prejudice. So next, I would like to pass on to Kevin to discuss more about how actually Todd overcame all these problems and make the most out of his employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelvin. Thank you, Kelvin. Kelvin, sorry. So how did Todd eventually overcome the problem previously mentioned by Skim and Kelvin and make the most out of his subordinates? So actually the turning point for Todd apparently began when he made an impulsive trip to the so-called McDonald's to purchase a cheeseburger where they actually only sell vegetarian burgers. So over there he met a fellow American, Larry Pine, as shown in the picture on the bottom right. Larry Pine actually told him, "Oh, resisting India, once I get in, I did much better." With these words, Todd actually got enlightened, and the next day he became a changed man. So
He started by appreciating the efforts of the employees, and it can be seen when he praised Aisha for taking over the manager role when both Todd and Puru are late. He also acknowledged that he also recognizes the Aisha ability and promised her that she'll be promoted to assistant manager when Todd goes back to Seattle, and implemented the incentive program. From the picture on the top right is where he praises Aisha. You can see that Todd is wearing a kurta, a traditional Indian costume. This photo shows that he's actually already into the Indian culture, accepted Indian culture. Other than appreciating the efforts of the employees, he also sincerely apologized to the employees for setting up the call center. Sorry, go back. He also sincerely apologized for setting up the call center in the American style, and agreed to heed Asha's advice of you should learn Indian culture. At the same time, he allows the employees to voice out their opinions and suggestions to improve the work environment. And the picture on the bottom right shows the employees raising hand to voice their opinions and give their seek for permission to bring photos of family members to decorate the work area, and some asked if they can wear comfortable clothing to work, and Todd agreed immediately and encouraged them to do so. Many of the employees are also interested in the company product, and Todd responded by implementing the incentive program where the person who reduced the most MPI on a given day will be rewarded with the company product. He also blended in with the employees, as can be seen when he performed the Indian dance when being asked to, although he's reluctant initially. So now let's bring in some of the cultural context that we learned in the lecture or previously mentioned. As mentioned earlier, Todd is an individualist, and he seldom put in effort to understand the people around him. However, he eventually transformed to a collectivist and started to become more receptive and had the very first deep conversation with Puro, getting to know him furthermore. And he also got to know his neighbor, which eventually helped him to reroute the electrical wiring and fulfillment to the rooftop due to floodings. And also he got closer with the kids whom he used to dislike and even bought things for them. The most obvious was when he called his parents the first thing when he returned to Seattle. All these are signs of collectivism. For high power distance to low power distance, we know that Todd is a low power distance person from the way he called his boss. And the employees are high power distance as they address Todd by Mr. Todd or Sir. But as the movie goes on, the employees actually became more low power distance as they started to address Todd by his first name. Uncertainty avoidance and uncertainty tolerance. Asha is brought up in the uncertainty avoidance culture. We can see that her parents decide everything for her, and even her marriage. However, Todd managed to change her mind by telling her that every people can change their inherited roles, and promoted Asha to assistant manager and telling her that Asha can do anything. Apparently, Asha replied as, "I always wanted to believe that, but until you, I don't think it was true." This statement clearly shows that Asha started to accept uncertainty tolerance. As for task orientation and social orientation, we know that Todd is a taskmaster when he first arrived in India, and however, towards the end, he started to look into employees' needs. As you can see when he asked the question, what would make your day a more positive experience to the employees? He started to care about the employees' needs. And as for the employees, they started to get more focused on getting the MPI down for the incentive reward. It shows that they have become more task-oriented. And with all these changes, Todd eventually managed to reach his goal and bring the MPI down to well below 6. With this, I'll pass on to Samuel, who will do the conclusion and recommendation, but I'll do conclusions. Samuel, please.
Thank you, Kelvin. So in an increasingly globalized world economy and labor force, we need to be able to effectively communicate with other cultures for effective teamwork and achieve business objectives. So when conducting business operations with other countries and cultures, it would be beneficial if we can understand the specific policies that can help with our business decisions. For example, a friend of mine actually shared with me that when shipping mugs as a marketing premium to other countries, every other city was receptive. You can actually send it to New York, the marks, you can actually send it to London, Hong Kong. But when it came to Japan, any item that came into contact with the mouth was actually a food item. So the marks were denied, and then they had to rethink their whole marketing strategy with Japan. So, next slide please. Okay, a good rule of thumb to follow would be to respect cultural differences, particularly in international business. Some of them would be formalities, social customs, the value of time, gender roles, and the thing is, there will be cultural implications of not following these, and they might lead to misunderstanding. So also, cross-cultural training is available in relocation centers and in organizations' human resource department. So one example of working around a cultural concept would be Todd's acceptance of the Hindu religion's reverence of the cow. Initially, he was very frustrated at the random appearance of the cow in the call center, but later on, when he was being more receptive to Indian culture, he wasn't so frustrated anymore. So, next slide. An example of intercultural opportunity in the movie was that Todd used his employees' interest in American products to incentivize productivity. He also used their favorite American movies as creative platforms to help his employees learn American slang to better their calls with American customers. Our group recommends that when working with different cultures and different people, it would be good if we can approach it with an open mind, in a way as to learn from other cultures. It would also probably suit business and work relations also. Our group also suggests that if the approach of cultural misunderstanding is met with strong reactions, we can actually resolve the misunderstanding with logic and reason. One scene in a movie shows a customer on the line who actually lost his job because he was outsourced to Mexico. He wanted to call to the call center and purchase an American eagle statue. I mean, it's an American statue, it should be made in America, but he actually called to the Garapuri, India call center and finding out that, hey, actually I want to buy a patriotic item, but then my call is being routed to India. He got very frustrated. So Asha, how she dealt with this situation is that she actually provided a source of a similar American eagle statue, 100% made in America, but at a cost difference of $200. So later on, the customer actually relented, and actually everything went quite all right. So, and with that, we have come to the end of our presentation, and we hope that everyone has learned a thing or two about intercultural communication. And in light of tomorrow being Deepavali, we'd like to wish everyone happy Deepavali, and we'd like to open the floor to questions. Thank you.
Yes.
We need at least 2 questions from the wall.
Keeping silence is part of the cultural aspect.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chinese are more,
Some culture will
they
mistake
think first
silence.
before they talk. Like what the slide they say, you talk, you might do nothing.
People being so thoughtful.
Yeah. I don't know what to say.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Maybe some of you who have worked before with foreign bosses would like to share with us some of the experience when you work with someone foreign, like even your lecturers, foreign lecturers, what difficulty you all met. it will be beneficial for all.
Or any colloquial term that we Singaporeans always like to use that other foreign lecturers may not understand sometimes. Yeah.
Not sure whether you guys are getting any intercultural marks here for being silent.
Okay, for me, I share with you all when I'm playing game, right? We used to have some forum where we chat, and there's people from all over the world. So actually, there's some word that actually mean different meaning to different people. For example, shit this word, right, in Singapore is commonly known. We don't take it as it's a vulgarity. But American, foreign, US, right, they actually take this word very seriously. So it's equivalent to our vulgarity in Singapore. Then for some of our Singlish, they actually don't understand, like liao la, all this. They actually don't get what we actually mean. So there are some of the language language differences between other countries and Singapore.
Have you ever been told by teachers to shut up? Has any teacher in school, not university, but in school?
Yeah.
Yes, maybe.
Many times.
I mean, to a class, you know, I don't mean to individuals.
Yeah.
That I find actually
Very rude.
yeah.
Very direct and very rude, especially if we are young at that point in time. It sounds like, yeah.
But I just wonder whether it is rude to students, you know, it's used to hearing it that it's not so.
I think when a teacher says shut up, you know that something has gone above the limit of acceptance for the teacher, and we might have done something very bad for them to actually say. Or maybe the noise level is unacceptable at that point. But I still think shut up is a very rude word to use
And
in any context.
also, I think because when, like, for example, primary school, secondary school, teacher is somehow a role model to the student. So if the way, how the way the teacher acts will actually translate to how the student will act maybe next time in the next few years' time.
So you feel the same?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought maybe, I mean, okay, I didn't grow up in Singapore, so I was wondering, oh, you know, is it acceptable here? Because I hear students say that, my kids say that, you know, she says, shut up. What? You know, I was quite shocked. So it happens it's quite common.
It happened.
It happens.
I think